Hey, what's up you guys? It's Travis, and today we're going to be talking about being clingy. Being neglected from our parents is a very big reason why a lot of us become very clingy people. I am one of those people. Not only that, there's a lot of trauma that goes along with that makes me an especially clingy person, so I had to really do a lot of work on myself to get past that because it was really affecting every single relationship that I had. My story I am going to share with you guys, which is a little bit heavier than I anticipated to share, but I think it's kind of important and hopefully gives you some perspective on your own life as well, because it's something that I'm still dealing with to this day. In my story, my parents weren't around very much. There was a lot of abandonment, there was a lot of abuse, and there was a lot of neglect, and that was really tough, being a very sensitive child who just wanted love from his parents. My mother, she had a drug addiction. With her drug addiction, the way she would go on her binges is she would leave for a few days or a few weeks and she just wouldn't come back. My mother was like this from my earliest memories. I don't remember her not being this way. And it was very tough being a child and not understanding why your mom would leave and not come back no matter how many times she said she would. This happened for the first 15 years of my life until I was kicked out and then I ran away from home. In those 15 years, I was abandoned so many times by my mother, and my dad wasn't even around because he was working a lot, and even when he was there, he wasn't really emotionally available. So I just felt so isolated and so alone that it really started to mess with me mentally. I've been working on this with a therapist, and we've traced it back to one specific memory that really manifests all my clinginess and my sense of abandonment that I get, not just with relationships, but also with friendships and people that mean a lot to me, because I have this constant fear that you're going to leave me. The specific memory that I'm talking about with respect to when my mom left me was one night. My dad was working, he was traveling in Dallas because he worked for the railroad, and it was my mom and my brother and I. I was 7 years old, my brother was 5 years old, and my mom was going to go get us dinner. I knew that she was itching to go on a drug binge, and my mom said that she was going to go get us Taco Bell because there was a Taco Bell down the street from where we lived. And I said, okay, great, I'll come with you, because I didn't want her to go by herself, because I knew that if she went by herself, she wasn't going to come back home. And she goes, no, Travis, stay here with your brother, just watch TV, I'll be back in like 10 minutes. And I said, no, Mom, please, we don't need food. I don't need it, I don't need to eat tonight, it's fine. And she's like, no, Travis, you guys need some food, you need dinner, just stop bothering me, relax, go watch TV and leave me alone. At 7 years old, I'm so stressed out because I know that if my mom leaves, if she walks out that door, she's not going to come back, and it's just going to be me and my brother in that house by ourselves until someone shows up to take care of us. So I tried my best begging my mom not to go, and she swore to me up and down that she was going to come back home with some food for us. And finally, she left. So when my mom left, I saw her pull out of the driveway, and I sat on my dad's recliner, and I watched her leave, and I waited and waited and waited for her to come home, and she never did. And I sat there that whole night. I remember very specifically sitting there that whole night, and every time a car would drive by, I'd see the headlights coming up from down the street, and I would just pray and hope that it was going to be her, and I would just like look and watch, and the car would just drive right past, and it wouldn't be my mom, and she didn't come back for a few weeks after that. Now obviously, drug addiction is something that you can't really blame people for. It happens and it takes over your life. And so today, being the adult that I am, I understand now what addiction really is. But at 7 years old, I didn't. I didn't understand why I wasn't good enough. I didn't understand why I wasn't good enough for my mom to stay home with me. She said that she loved me, and she still left. Time and time again, and that was a very specific instance where that kind of broke me. And even though I've moved past it emotionally, well, no I haven't, because it still affects me very emotionally, which I think is very telling about how that affects me today. But I think that it broke me in a way that it created a cycle. It created a cycle in my brain that I continue to manifest over and over again in my relationships with my friends, with my family, and even with my boyfriends, because I expect everyone's going to leave. And when you expect it from someone for so long, eventually they do. So it's really important to arrest that and take care of that and address that feeling, because if you don't, then you're going to relive that hell over and over and over again. I'm pretty self-aware, so I've been keeping tabs on this for a while, and now I'm also working with a therapist who's been helping me address this and really bring life to it, because it's a very hard topic for me to talk about. It's hard for me to address. It's even hard for me to make a video about this right now. That is what has made me a very sensitive person and a clingy person in some respect because I don't want you to leave, so I hold on to you so tight, hoping that you won't, but little do you know that in relationships that just drives people away. So as far as solutions for this, I have to pay attention to the child within me, because we all still have that child within ourselves that continues to live in our daily lives, even as adults. The child in me needs to be acknowledged every single time this comes up. So when I text someone and they don't text me back in exactly the time that I would expect them to text me back, the child awakens, the abandoned child awakens, and then I become that kid waiting for my mom to come back home, waiting for someone to text me. And it's something that seems very trivial, and they don't even seem like they're in the same league of importance, but your mind still responds the same way. So it's important to acknowledge that. The reason it's important to acknowledge that is because it separates yourself from that emotion. So instead of being that abandoned little child, I watch the abandoned child. By watching the child, I get to see him, and I get to separate myself from that, and then adjust my actions as the adult accordingly. So this isn't saying that I'm going to get rid of the emotions. I still feel those emotions every single time I get that sense of abandonment. It comes up every single time. However, by watching the child, watching that kid pray for his mom to come home, I get to take a different action, take a contrary action. And the action itself is often nothing at all. I just need to often step away from whatever it is that I'm so worried that people are going to abandon me from, and usually they come back. But if I keep texting and I keep bothering them and keep wanting that reinforcement and that validation from them, then it often drives people away, and it defeats the purpose entirely because it stops me from having a healthy relationship with anybody. So for yourselves watching this right now, I highly recommend looking back to why you really are a clingy person. Where does that clinginess come from? Who left you? Who abandoned you? In whatever form is important to you, because we all have our own lives and we all have our own journeys, and so it's important to recognize what it was for you, because once you recognize that, then you can take action to fixing that. It's important that when you recognize that child acting up, not to judge the child either, because you should have compassion for that child. You should feel sympathy for that child, because there's a very valid reason why he felt the way he did. My inner child, the inner version of myself, had a very good reason for feeling sad and abandoned. He was left by his mother and his father. He was alone in the house with his little brother, and he had no one else to turn to in that situation. He was sad, he was alone, and he was scared. So whenever he pops up in his little abandoned state, I have to just let it happen. I have to let those emotions cycle through, but as long as my actions are in line with trying to make myself a better person and a better partner and just a better individual in life, over time I've been able to build self-respect. I've been able to build up that self-esteem, and now I finally see myself as someone that's worthy of the love that the child in me never thought he was ever going to deserve. I didn't feel good enough to be loved, and so therefore I wouldn't allow anyone to genuinely love me. So the point is, you can't be abandoned from other people if you don't allow them to, but you can abandon yourself. You can't abandon that child within yourself by neglecting them and not acknowledging the truth of what your past brings to the table with why you are a clingy person and why you need so much attention from people on the outside because you don't feel like you got enough at some point in your life from the people that matter to you the most. Being a clingy person in general is just kind of a funny thing, but I also acknowledge that there is an underlying, more serious truth as to why we become clingy, and so I wanted to talk about that with you guys because it's something that really affected my life. And although it was funny and I can make jokes out of a lot of the dumb things that I did being a clingy person, it also really impacted my life in a negative way. So even though it was a joke, it wasn't really making my life experience any better. And that's kind of what I ultimately want for you guys. I want you to be happy and I want you to feel good about yourselves. And so, yeah, I wanted to make this video. And I guess that's all I have for right now. So thank you guys so much for watching. And we'll see you next time.